everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We
Hello,
are
Jay.
live.
Good
It's
afternoon. How
Wednesday,
are
it's
you?
12 o'clock. So we're going to be doing this every week, and we're going to be talking about lead gen ideas, specifically free, hopefully free lead gen ideas. I know there are a lot of options out there, a lot of companies that like to charge us, management fees to run ads, usually online, whether they be Google ads or Facebook ads or Instagram ads, which work, but they cost money. So my intention here is to share with you free lead gen ideas. So before I share with you the topic today, I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jane. I am originally from Vancouver, which is where I started my real estate career. That is my hometown. So I started real estate in Vancouver about 12 years ago. And then about 8 years ago, I decided to move to Toronto, specifically Oakville, where I knew no one. So it was really important for me to come up with some lead gen ideas that not only worked, but didn't break the bank. So I've learned along the way what has worked, what hasn't. Along the way, I have also been fortunate enough to train other agents at my previous brokerage, which was an online brokerage. I was the training manager for them and able to train a lot of agents. And again, sharing with them what works, specifically about lead gen, and seeing them implement it and see what works for them as well. In addition to that, I also recruited for a leading brand in real estate. So again, lots of conversations with agents about, the struggles and, what it is that we have to deal with. And it does come down oftentimes to lead gen, where your client's going to come from. So like I said, every Wednesday, I'm going to do this. I'm going to share with you a free lead gen idea. And today we're going to talk about open houses. So before we get into that, I also want to share with you guys just some foundations. So hopefully you guys, have four really strong pillars of lead gen. So think of it as a table, four legs. If you have four pillars, you're going to have a really sturdy table. It's not going to be wobbly. So think of that analogy when you're thinking of your lead gen ideas. You want to have four really strong lead gen ideas that you're implementing and that you're consistent with. So hopefully you implement these ideas for at least 3 months. So at least for a quarter, if not 2 quarters out of the year. And something that I recommend as well is just a really simple graph here that you see. It's just something that you can put on your desk so that you see it every day, so you know exactly what four pillars you're focusing on now. Again, being consistent with whatever it is that you choose will allow you to determine in 3 to 6 months what's working, what's not working, what you enjoyed doing, what you didn't enjoy doing. And then that way you can systematically remove, replace one at a time instead of throwing them all out and reinventing the wheel, because you'll see that some things do work better for you. If they're more in line with your personality, you'll even enjoy doing them. So I recommend just having a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy. You fold it once and then you fold it again, and then you've got your four squares. So right in there, your four different lead gen ideas, have that in front of you, and again, stay consistent. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about open houses. So open houses are a great strategy for new agents, experienced agents, but there is a strategy that you want to have implemented so that you are, not just going to an open house and spending your time, on a Sunday for a couple of hours and nobody shows up. You have nobody to talk to. You don't want to be wasting your Sundays. You want to be converting leads. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how to choose your open houses and then, what to do once you're there. So it's a whole strategy, like I said, starting from Thursday all the way to Tuesday. So we're not just focused on, Sunday from 2 to 4. So that's going to be what we're talking about today. Let me know in the chat if you have open houses as one of your lead gen pillars. If you have a strategy in place, feel free to share it with me as we go through the webinar. Okay, yeah, welcome everybody. Just checking the chat while I do that before we get started. And yeah, it's nice to see everybody. Yeah, no worries if your video isn't working. Nice to see everybody who is on video. And like I said, we'll jump in here. So feel free to let me know in the chat if open houses is something you already do. Here's the strategy that I'm going to share with you today. So as I said, we're going to talk about how to find an open house. So, most brokerages hopefully will send out some sort of email or let you know what agents are looking for open houses. Sometimes that doesn't happen. But you know what? We can be more resourceful than that, right? So I'm going to share with you a couple of tips in terms of how to find an open houses and which open houses are the best to do. Again, it's a strategy here. So we want to make sure that we're going to have traffic. We're going to have people coming in. So I will share with you some things to keep in mind in terms of making sure that your open house is busy. We're going to talk about a strategy that starts right from Thursday, so I won't give it all away, but right from Thursday, you want to be preparing for your open house, talking to neighbors, inviting them to a private open house, usually on Friday. I'll share with you a strategy around that. And the idea with this is really to not only introduce yourself to the neighbors, but invite them to a private open house specifically for them so that on Saturday and Sunday, so not just Sunday 2 to 4, you can really focus on the public and those potential buyers and even sellers that are walking through your open house without getting distracted by the neighbors who are, maybe just looking, right, to see what the neighbors have done to their home. So last but not least, we'll talk about a follow-up system on Monday and Tuesday. So it's a well-rounded strategy that I hope you guys will implement if you don't already have pieces of this to the puzzle. Awesome. So I'm just checking the chat, and we've got some people thinking about open houses, so about to implement that. And yeah, definitely there will be a recording of this as well if you wanted to take a look back. All right, so let's talk about finding an open house. So I'm actually going to do a real life demo. So I'm going to switch my screen here, and I'm going to jump into my MLS system. So again, hopefully, you know what, it timed me out. So hopefully your brokerage does announce what open houses are available. But again, I am going to recommend that, you be resourceful, a little bit more resourceful. So not just picking up the open houses that are offered to you, but finding out which open houses may be coming up. Once you start doing this, you'll also realize who in your brokerage is maybe a heavy lister, right? Somebody who has a lot of listings. So reaching out to them, building that relationship with that agent who's at your brokerage, and just volunteering to do open houses. Let them know this is something that you're going to be implementing and you want to be busy every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And, again, just build that alliance with them so that if they do have an open house, they're not even announcing it to the brokerage. They're reaching out to you directly and asking if you're available, right? So you get first dibs on that brand new open house. So that's going to be one of the things I'm going to recommend. Days on market is going to be really important. Price point is going to be really important as well. So I'm in Toronto, as I mentioned at the beginning. So I'm going to be using Treb just to show this to you quickly, but you can implement this, if your platform is a little bit different. They're all pretty much have the same search capabilities. So the thing that I'm going to recommend is that you find a freehold property that is currently for sale. So with this platform, Treb, we're going to go ahead and search freehold residential. And down at the bottom, you have the option of searching for your listing brokerage's name. So whatever brokerage you're with, you can go ahead and using the asterisks, is that how you say it? You can type in your brokerage. So that will give you all of the listings that your brokerage currently has. So in this case, I've typed in Real Broker. There are 279 matches. So we want to narrow that down. We want to go ahead and find a property that's in your neighborhood. So you don't want to be traveling 2 hours to do an open house, because guess what? The buyers that you meet are likely looking for properties that are 2 hours away from you. So, you want to make your life easier, not harder. So you want to pick a property that is in your neighborhood, something that's easy for you to get to. And also that way, the neighborhood, you can talk about it a little bit easier than if you're off 2 hours away from where you usually run around. So for me, I'm in Oakville. So I'm just going to go ahead and, you know what? I'll type in Halton and maybe even Peel. So that gives me options in Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington. So I can take a look and see what's available. So we've got 22 matches. So I'm going to go ahead and click on results. And that's going to give me a list of these listings. So right away, you can see that there is an icon. It looks like this. Over here. It looks like an open door, and that's because that represents an open house. So that listing already has an open house scheduled. So they likely already have coverage for it. So the listing agent might be kind conducting that open house on the weekend. But look at all of the other opportunities you have here. There are 21 other listings that are listed by your brokerage that don't have an open house currently running. So there's going to be a couple of things that I'm going to recommend. I'm going to go ahead and sort this by list price. And so here we have listings starting at the 724 price point, and then they go all the way up from there. In my experience, you definitely want to find something that's in the lower price range, just because those are more likely going to be first-time home buyers and then more likely to not already be working with an agent. So I know lots of agents who, like that multi-million-dollar price point. Of course, we all do, but just in my experience, I know that the buyers who walk through those open houses already have an agent that they're working with. So just to make the best use of your time, I would recommend finding something in the lower price range. So that $999 for a detached home is usually a pretty attractive price point. So keeping that in mind, the other thing I would like you to implement is days on market. So that's also going to be a factor in determining whether or not you are going to have a busy open house. So let's just go ahead and insert a column here. So if you don't already have that feature, you can just go ahead and type in days on market, and you can add that to your search criteria. So we've got everything sorted by price point, but now let's go ahead and look at days on market. So we have here a few that are just new to the market, 1 or 2 days on the market. So we see that the very first one listed at $759.9. This is the one that already has an open house scheduled. So that one, great. Go ahead and take a look at it, see who the listing agent is, right? Because chances are, again, some agents are heavy listers. Some agents represent more buyers and sellers, especially if they're newer. So you get to see who the agents are at your brokerage that are listing. So, these are the agents you want to make relationships with. Reach out to them, let them know that you're available for open houses so that if they have something coming up, you can bypass this whole step entirely because now they're reaching out to you directly. So we have this second open house here. Again, if we scroll down, we have another agent here who's listed this property. This is a good price point as well. It's just over the $1 million mark as opposed to under it. But it is located in Brampton. So if that's convenient to you, then go ahead and you can reach out to this agent because it's a brand new listing, right? So anything that's brand new, you definitely want to target more so than a property that's been sitting on the market for 30 days, right? That's probably going to be a less busy open house than something that's brand new. Also take a look at the photos, make sure that it is something that is attractive, something that, again, you think the public will want to go and see. So a couple of factors, they're looking at price point and looking at days on market, and then also looking at the condition of the property just to ensure that you're going to have a really successful open house. So scrolling down here, we see the same listing agent as the first listing. So, if I were doing this in real life, in real time, I would probably reach out to her and introduce myself to her and let her know, hey, you know what, I'm open for open houses. I see that you have a couple of listings. If you need any help, let me know. Happy to take on open houses Saturday and Sunday. So there you go. There's a little bit of a way in terms of how to pick a property, a strategy around which, open houses are the best ones to do. So again, really looking at the price point, really looking at days on market and making sure that the property is attractive and it's going to attract the public over the weekend. All right. Let me go ahead and switch back to my slides.
If I travel,
let me know if you have any questions while I'm flipping over.
Allows that on, or
I think we've got somebody. I'm just going to mute you, but feel free to ask questions if anything comes up. Just have some background noise there. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. All right, so I'm going to recommend that before your open house on, again, Saturday and Sunday, so I'm already giving that away, Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 4, that's when you want to be conducting your open house. What I'm going to recommend prior to that is that you go ahead and introduce yourself to the neighbors. So on Thursday, before the open house, go ahead and door knock the neighborhood, and it's up to you how deep into the neighborhood you want to go. You can go 10 houses down to the right, 10 houses down to the left of your open house. across the street, around the block. It's up to you how many people you want to invite, how much time you want to spend. We have lots of snow on the ground right now, so you may do less than you would, during the spring, summer. But pick what you're comfortable doing, pick what's in your comfort zone, and go ahead and start introducing yourself to the neighborhood. So before I share with you some scripts, I see Mahid, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I just have a quick question. Shouldn't we check the history of the property?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a great
Because if
point. Yeah, thanks for
it's,
bringing that up.
yeah, because if it's like, been listed several times, which,
Yeah,
most of these houses are these days, so then there's no
yeah,
point, right? Like,
yeah.
uh,
That is
and
very
and
true.
another question, I know you're using, I guess, Matrix.
Yeah.
Could you like be able to show us on Realm as well, like how to, because I don't see any like, like I have to manually search if this house is, first of all listed by our brokerage. I mean, I can do that, but then like if it has an open house or not, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So
Thank you.
I'd have to do that separately. So I don't, I've chosen Matrix, so I can't switch to Realm, but that's something that,
Okay,
yeah,
no
let me figure out
problem.
how I could do that separately for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Yeah, thanks for the question. And yes, good point. Absolutely check the history because the days on market could be misleading if it's been canceled and relisted several times. Excellent. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about what it is that you're going to talk about with the neighbors. So I know that for some people love door knocking and some people really resist it, but this is a little bit of an easier sell. I don't want to use the word sell, but for lack of a better word, this is a little bit of a better strategy because you have an open house that you're inviting them to. So you're not just door knocking, asking them if they're interested in selling their home, you're actually showing up with a purpose. So go ahead and door knock the neighborhood, introduce yourself, and just let them know. You're working with the home down the street. It's not your open house, so you can't really say, you're the listing agent, but you can still let them know, of course, that you're going to be conducting an open house over the weekend. You're working with the home that's down the street for sale. And usually, 9 times out of 10, people are interested in the property that is listed for sale, right? Because they're neighbors. They want to know what's happening in their neighborhood. It's a good indication of what might happen to their home if they were to decide to sell. So it's an easier conversation to have. You're not just walking up, asking neighbors if they're interested in selling. You're coming with a purpose, so let them know that you are conducting an open house down the street, but you're actually here to invite them to a private preview. So you're going to conduct a private open house for neighbors only on Friday from 5 to 7. So again, you're showing up with information, you're introducing yourself, you're letting them know you're representing the house down the street and that you are inviting them to a private preview. The reason for this is because you want to meet the neighbors separately so that on Saturday and Sunday, when you're conducting your open houses to the public, you're not also talking to neighbors. You've already met them, you've already spoken to them. It's a different conversation that you're having with neighbors than with hopefully buyers and sellers who are ready to go. So again, invite them to an open house on Friday from 5 to 7. Let them know that they're welcome to bring a friend or a family member who might want to move into the area. And this is very true. Sometimes neighbors, know people who have been waiting for, a townhouse in their complex to come up. So they may know somebody who's interested. So those are the people that you want to have come through on Friday. And if they're not able to make it, or you don't think they will for whatever reason, ask them a question. So another thing that you can ask them is just what their favorite thing is about living here. That gives you some intel that you can share at the open house. It also gets them talking to you and opening up. You don't want to spend a ton of time at their door. You're still coming sort of unannounced, but you are coming with an invitation. So you're coming, not to bother, but to invite. So you don't want to have a lengthy conversation. You don't want to be talking to them about, when they moved in, how long they've been there, what drew them to the neighborhood. Hopefully, those are the questions you can ask them when they actually show up to your private open house. But for now, if you're not sure whether or not they're going to make it to the private open house that you're conducting on Friday from 5 to 7, specifically for the neighbors, just ask them what their favorite thing is about living here and just let them know the reason you're asking is because you'd like to share that on Saturday and Sunday when the public comes through, just so that you have some more information about the neighborhood. Definitely provide them with your card if they have any questions. Let them know. So you're providing your contact information as well before you move on to the next property. So sharing a couple of things to say when you're door knocking the neighborhood. And then, of course, you want to get ready for Friday. So the next day, you want to conduct your private open house, and feel free to make this fancy. I mean, it depends on your budget. Again, I am recommending here free strategies. So there's no obligation to, have the bottles of water or whatnot. But do remember that this is, you representing yourself to the neighborhood. So at the very least, have some feature sheets printed out. Hopefully the listing agent has some of those on hand. So have the feature sheets, have your business cards at the very, very least. So you definitely want to host your open house, as I said, on Friday, usually from 5 to 7. So it's after work for most people. And then this is when you can start having conversations with the neighbors about, how long they've been in the area, all of those details. So definitely when they come in, you want to make sure that you're welcoming them warmly. It's nice to see you again. This is kind of when you start to build that relationship, right? This is the second time you're seeing them because you just door knocked, you just introduced yourself to them at their door, and now they're coming to see you because you invited them to this open house. So definitely welcome them, thank them for coming by. And then this is where you can start getting into their history. How long have they been in the area? And what made you choose this neighborhood originally? What is it that you love about this neighborhood? So again, just asking those questions that you can then talk about at your open house, it just gives you intel into, what the neighbors are loving about their specific area. And then, of course, you can do a little bit of a soft sell. Do you know anyone who's been thinking about moving closer to you? Certainly, if they brought a friend or family member who's interested, you definitely want to talk to them. And then, of course, you can segue it a little bit and ask them if they're thinking about making a move. But you're really going to want to get their contact information, because the idea here is you've met them at their door, you've invited them to a private open house, and after your open house over the Saturday and Sunday over the weekend, you're going to want to reach out to them again and let them know, how many buyers are interested in this area and whether or not they might consider a move. So the other question to ask, of course, is if they're interested in a home evaluation. Of course, you're available to do that. Happy to come by and, even just have a quick conversation about what's happening in the neighborhood. So again, this is all about relationship building, meeting the neighbors, and just making them feel welcome and having them get to know you a little bit before you do your open house. So again, part of this strategy here is to make sure that the neighbors are met with separately, so that now over the weekend you can really focus on the buyers and sellers who are going to walk through. All right, let me see, any questions so far, or any other tips? Let me just lower this. And okay, so I'd make sure that I'm not missing any questions. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about the Saturday and Sunday open house. Okay, let's talk about this in terms of prep. So it's so funny. I'm sure you guys have seen this driving around your own neighborhood. If you're not conducting an open house, you're driving around the neighborhood on Sunday at 2 o'clock. You see agents frantically putting up their signs at 1:55. Do it beforehand. Ideally, it's 60 to 90 minutes, sure. But ideally, if you can get them out in the morning, get your open house signs out, on each corner in proximity to the open house that you're going to be conducting. It just lets people know that there's obviously an open house happening, where it is. Sometimes agents will put riders saying from 2 to 4 or 1 to 5. That is really a preference. I know some agents do 1 to 5 just to have more time there to meet clients, but your neighborhood best and what's busy. Try the 1 to 5. If you find that nobody's coming, from 1 to 2, then keep it to 2 to 4. But yes, at the very least, 2 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday. Make sure your signs are out early. If you have that rider, just let the public know that you are going to be there from 2 to 4 or 1 to 5, whatever it is that you decide to do. So you don't want to be doing that at 1:55, because you want to be at the property, I would say at least 30 minutes beforehand, especially if you have things to set up. If you have feature sheets, if you have water bottles, if you have, all those sorts of things to set up, then you're going to need to give yourself some time. You don't want to be doing that while the public is starting to come in. And it never fails, if you have selected a really good property to showcase for an open house, it never fails that people show up early. So again, you don't want to be still setting up when people are coming in. So you want to make sure that the house also looks, in the best possible way. So you want to make sure that the lights are on, in every single room. Nobody's going into a dark basement. All of the lights are on. The blinds are open. You want to make sure that that natural light is coming in. One of the things, especially right now, again, we're in the dead of winter. I would say this is the dead of winter. You want to make sure that the house is comfortable. There's nothing worse than going into an open house and it's freezing cold. It just doesn't feel welcoming. So make sure that that's part of your prep, that you make sure that the house is warm. So again, if you're showing up at 1:55 to set up for a 2 o'clock open house, the house isn't going to warm up in 5 minutes if the thermostat hasn't been on. So make sure that you give yourself some time. Definitely, creating an ambiance, having some soft music playing, something in the background, especially if you have a property that has the surround sound system, showcase those sorts of things. So playing music, if you wanted to set up candles, I know some agents will, bake cookies. There's all sorts of different strategies there. Personally, I just like having things organized and on display, all the feature sheets, maybe some bottles of water. Again, I know agents will go over the top with charcuterie boards. And, I just, unless you know that it's going to be super, super busy, I wouldn't worry about investing that kind of money. Just making sure that the house is presented well. Removing clutter, personal items, garbage. It's funny sometimes, sellers, even with the best intentions, they might forget something. They might have something in the sink. Wash it, put it away, put it in the dishwasher. Wipe counters, mirrors, if that's all. If it's necessary, and just make sure that all the rooms are open so people can easily see, this is the primary bedroom, this is the closet. Just make sure that everything is open. So again, making sure that, you're ready and you're ready before people start walking in. So a little bit of prep leading up to the open house. And then let's talk about arrival and first impressions. So definitely you want to make sure that when people walk in, you're warm and welcoming, you're introducing yourself. As a new agent, it's hard to know what to say. And just try to be as natural as possible. Welcome them to the property. One of the things that I'm going to recommend very strongly is that immediately after introducing yourself, not the first thing, but the second thing is to ask them to sign in. Sometimes you'll have people who resist signing in, but just let them know it is a requirement by the sellers to know who's walking through the property. And more often times than not, people will sign in. I've only had a couple of examples where people really didn't want to, but eventually they understood it was for the seller's protection. So to please sign in. And then have a sign-in sheet that, captures some basic information. So of course, you want to capture their name, but most importantly, their email and their phone number. And then it's a nice little trick to have, whether they're ready to buy now or later, or they're just looking. And then another little question to add that I really like on your sign-in sheet is whether or not they're working with an agent. So that's something really important so that you know who you can reach out to afterwards. So make sure that you have a sign-in sheet. And my personal preference, my recommendation is to do the old school paper. I have tried all of the fancy apps and I've had iPads and I've asked people to sign in. It just doesn't work as well as a piece of paper. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Sometimes if you have multiple people walking into an open house and you have one iPad, then you have that awkward, sort of waiting area where people are wanting to come in and they can't because they're waiting to sign in. So I just find it's much easier, even though, yes, I understand that sometimes, it's difficult to read people's handwriting. If it is difficult, feel free to ask them, sorry, what was your name? Sorry, I didn't catch, is that a 5 or a 4 or whatever? Just ask them for clarification if you can see immediately that you're not able to read what it is that they've written on the sign-in sheet. But I do recommend having a piece of paper over any of the fancy apps, just because, again, if multiple people walk in, you can have multiple sheets of paper where everybody's signing in and providing their information. Because at the end of the day, this is the most important piece, right? You want to capture their contact information so you can reach out to them afterwards and let them know, of course, how the open house went and whether or not they're interested in this property or something else. All right, so once you have captured their information, you can ask them, what brought you in today? I just feel that's a really easy question. What brought you in today? As opposed to, what's your budget? What are you looking for? What do you need? And another suggestion that I'm going to make here today is when you are showing the property. And again, this will depend on whether or not the open house is busy. If it's not super crazy busy and you have the opportunity to show the buyers around, I would recommend showing the buyers around the property. And you may keep it to just the main floor. If you anticipate other people coming in, you don't want to be upstairs when somebody walks into the house and then you can't ask them, you can't introduce yourself and you can't ask them to sign in. So maybe, you do a tour of the main floor and then you allow them to explore the bedrooms upstairs and the basement downstairs and then come back and let you know what their feedback is. But one of the other tricks that I really want to highlight here is in showing properties. And this is actually even helpful when you're showing your own buyer clients one-on-one properties, at the beginning. You can ask them how it is that they're going to use the space. So yes, obviously this is the kitchen. Yes, obviously this is the living room. But when you're showing potential buyers a property, it's helpful to highlight a feature and ask them if that would be useful to them, right? So for example, this is a gourmet kitchen, chef's kitchen. It's been renovated this way and that. It has this feature and that feature. Do you like to cook? Do you like to entertain? So this just allows you to not only show them the property, of course, but to get to know them and get to know what it is that they're looking for. If they say, the kitchen isn't really that important, I'm not a cook, but I like to entertain, so I like it to be open and spacious. This is going to help them find something that does fit their needs. So whether it's this property or not, you're starting to gather information about what it is that they're looking for and what is important to them. It's a much easier way to get to know their wants and needs. Other than asking them what their wants and needs are, right? Just asking them how they would use the space and what's important to them. So certainly one of the things as you're showing them the property, as you're, explaining the main floor, getting to know what they're looking for, this is when you can kind of start to sprinkle in the conversations that you had with the neighbors during your door knocking, right? So we invited neighbors on Friday. This is what they said about the neighborhood. They really love that the school is down the street, or, it's whatever the case may be. There's a community center not far. All the kids go to that park down the street. Whatever it is that the neighbors shared with you, this is a nice time to sprinkle that in, because now we're not just talking bedrooms and bathrooms. We're talking about the lifestyle that home provides. So definitely something to share with them as well as you're doing that walkthrough. All right, so let's talk about follow-up. So this is going to also be super, super important in terms of converting your open houses from just open houses to leads. So you definitely want to follow up, and there are a couple of times that you want to follow up at the very least. And the first one is going to be on the same day. So immediately after your open house is over, your day isn't done. So at 4:01, if you're running around collecting open house signs, maybe give it a minute, maybe take some time at the open house still once it's over, once everybody has left, and you can do your follow-ups right there, if of course the sellers allow it. And it can just be a simple text message to whoever it is that walked through. And it can be really, soft and friendly. You can provide value. So there's lots of different things that you can text, obviously, but definitely just send them a quick text saying it was nice to meet them at the open house so they know who you are. And like I said, there's different things that you can send. So you can say, if you'd like, I can send you a few homes similar to this one that might fit what you're looking for. Again, this is all going to depend on the conversations that you had with these potential buyers. You can also let them know, if they mention that they have a property to sell, you can let them know that you're happy to provide them with an opinion on pricing. So there's different things that you can do here. One of the things that I have done that I think is successful is sending them a quick text and then sending them the feature sheet virtually if you have one, so an electronic copy of the property that they just saw, because if they have visited multiple open houses that day, they might not remember your name, or the property that you're talking about. So I like to just send a quick text, say it was great meeting you at the open house today. Here's the information. Let me know if you have any other questions. So the next day, there continues to be follow-up on Monday. You want to go ahead and follow up probably by email this time. If you're getting responses by text, then continue to communicate with them that way. But again, on Monday, you can follow up with an email. And again, just same idea. Great meeting you at the open house. Thanks for stopping by. I've attached the full feature sheet. Here's the virtual tour. Whatever information you have, share that with them. And then, of course, offer to send them similar listings in the area. So going ahead and providing that email so that they have your contact information and hopefully they respond to that. So a couple of ideas for follow-up there. Hopefully you have a CRM to input all of these contacts into a follow-up system so that not only are you reaching out manually, but you're creating tasks so that you can follow up with them and you can keep track of what it is that they're looking for. So going back to the sign-in sheet, that's actually one of the other things I really like about having a sign-in sheet. Again, when you have a busy open house, it's hard to keep track for you of all the conversations that you've had. So when you have a piece of paper and somebody has signed in, you can quickly turn over that piece of paper, once they've left and jot down what it was that they said, because it'll get a little bit muddy if you've met 10 or 15 people over a 2 or 4 hour period. You can't remember who was looking for what or who had the house or who was in a rental looking to buy for the first time. So if you can quickly jot that down on the back of the piece of paper, that gives you obviously reminders about what to talk about when you follow up. All right, so last but not least, on Tuesday is when I would recommend that you reach out to the neighbors. So again, letting them know what happened. So, you want to let them know what happened in their neighborhood, how many people came through the open house, what was the interest like, what was the feedback. Now, in a different time, if we were doing multiple offers, you might have scheduled your offer presentation for Monday. So this, of course, would be information to share with the neighbors on Tuesday, right? Letting them know how many offers, letting them know if it's sold, and updating them, letting them know that you will update them with the sold price as soon as that happens. We're not seeing a ton of offer presentations, although I am seeing that sort of creep up. So if that's happening, share that information with them. And then if not, obviously just let them know how the open house went, how busy it was, what the feedback was, and, whether they have, any interest in selling. You met with several buyers over the weekend and there's a lot of interest in the neighborhood. So yeah, always open that up and see if they might be interested in selling as well. So there's your follow-up system. Let me know if you have questions about any of that or any other
Jane,
suggestions, maybe. Yeah.
the private open house, are you using the same registration form to neighbor to sign them in?
Yeah, I would use the same one. I don't have separate sign-in sheets. That one, I find it captures all the information. If they're a neighbor, it says right there that that's one of the options. So my sign-in sheet has the name, the email address, and the phone number. And then there's a couple of boxes that they can select off to the side. And yeah, so that's the question. Are you looking now? Are you looking for later, I believe? And then it says, I'm a neighbor, just browsing. And are you working with an agent? So yeah, for the neighbor open house, you can use the same sign-in sheet.
And Tuesday, kind of revisiting them, you said by call. It seems like there not many people register their phone number on the 411.ca, something like that. So it's better to just visit actually in person.
Yeah, so hopefully those phone numbers you're getting from the sign-in sheet when you had the private open house for the neighbors. So yeah, we didn't even talk about Canada 411, but that's definitely something else that you could do. Especially I keep talking about the snow because I can see it from here. Yeah, if it's a winter week like what we're having now, yeah, maybe that might be a strategy instead of doing the door knocking is to look up neighbors on Canada 411. And there's a feature that you can use there where, again, this is free, Canada 411. You can go ahead and put in the postal code of the address that you're going to host an open house at, and that will give you a list of other people in that area. So you're right, though, not everybody lists their phone number, but if it's snowing, it's a good strategy to implement. Instead of door knocking on Thursday, you can try the cold calling.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, let me know any other thoughts, again, anybody else implementing this or wanting to implement this. It is a great strategy. this is how I started my real estate career. I had a listing that was not the best, which was great. It was actually great. And what I mean by not the best is it was actually a co-op. So it had a lot of restrictions, but the price point was really low. But so I had a lot of a lot of first time home buyers come through my open house because they were attracted to the price. But because it was a co op, it had a lot of restrictions. So rentals weren't allowed, pets weren't allowed, children weren't allowed. So it sort of, wasn't desirable for a lot of people other than the price point. So from that open house, or from that listing, I was able to conduct multiple open houses and meet multiple first time home buyers because that was the price range they wanted to stay in. And thankfully, there were properties in that price range or a little bit higher that were in co ops. So I was able to convert from that one listing, I was able to convert 5 buyers. So again, this is why I always go back to recommending that you select your open houses carefully. So if you have something that's in that lower price range, you are going to meet first time home buyers who don't have agents already. I actually spoke to an agent last year who said that she had done 40 some open houses in Toronto in the bridle path, so multi-million dollar properties. And she said it wasn't a strategy she was going to use anymore because she didn't convert any buyers from those open houses. But, I think at that price point, those buyers already have agents, and that was probably why she wasn't able to convert any buyers from those open houses. She spent the time, she spent the energy, but just the open houses were attracting a certain buyer that, again, had an agent already. So I highly recommend the lower price point open houses. They do work, and they do convert. So just make sure that you're conducting these open houses, you have a strategy in place, you're capturing their information, and you're just genuinely wanting to help them, right? So again, with that example that I just shared with the co-op apartment, it was exciting to meet first-time home buyers, and they wanted to find something in that price range. And you follow up with them, you take them out the following weekend, and it's exciting to help them find something that works for them. All right. Excellent. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I will leave it here. But yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me separately, you know how to reach me. So I will put my link actually in the chat right now. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna put my phone number in here, and yeah, if you want to reach out if you have any other questions, 905-330-0275. Happy to chat with you, and yeah, we'll do this again next week. Hopefully, you're able to join. So every Wednesday, 12 o'clock, free lead gen ideas, and I'll announce what we're doing next week. Again, if you have ideas, feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to share. So. Thanks again for joining me today, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.